calls himself a car nut, a tough taskmaster, and someone with a keen business sense. But for the last 40-plus years, he's been a radio broadcaster. Like many, moving up and down the dial from Ohio to Virginia to Florida, then Albuquerque, until he moved south and found his home in Las Cruces. Alan began his media career by delivering newspapers in his hometown at the age of 12. He had many jobs and 2 years in college before an NCR sales course took him down the road to broadcasting.
I was going to college. I was married, still married to the same person, and which is Sandy. I guess we should give her credit, right, for sticking with me. But I decided that I needed to go out and get a real job. We had a baby, and going to college and having a baby and having a wife and all those responsibilities, I decided that I either needed to continue in college with some major, and I couldn't decide what it was, or get out and get a real job.
He was a salesman, a sales manager, a general manager, and finally a station owner. He even worked with Don Imus long before Imus was famous, but it was by chance he was sent to a radio station for a job.
So they called me one day and told me that they could set me up on an interview selling radio advertising. I said, wow, that's weird. Yes, be happy to. I interviewed, ended up getting the job, working for an FM radio station.
Along the way, he sold millions of dollars worth of advertising time, breaking more than a few sales records. His first big sale was sweet. He sold a $10,000 package to Smuckers to run ads on his Medina, Ohio FM station. It was an amazing feat in the early 1960s when most folks didn't even own FM radios, or as some called it, forget the money. He admits it's not all been easy, and one of his battles is extremely personal, a struggle with alcohol, which he's avoided for more than 30 years and has the AA chip to prove it. He took a few detours working in plastics and running his own ad agency, but radio was his niche, and he admits it was fun.
A lot more fun. And it wasn't just because of the drinking. It was an opportunity to be creative, to be loose, to be running around with less boundaries, perhaps, I guess you could say. The first station I was with, the FM station in Medina, Ohio, was actually an automated radio station. The music was all put on tapes, and then the tapes were played with an early version of what computers would be. So I learned how to do that kind of automation stuff back in the 1960s. At that point, of course, traffic was all done manually. It was the 70s when traffic systems got to be automated or computerized after that. And now, obviously, virtually everything is computerized, whether it's live or DB'd. And of course, we don't have a lot of tubes anymore. They're transistors and integrated circuits.
After living on the East Coast for several years, he knew it was time to move on, but New Mexico wasn't his first choice.
On a map, I took out a map and physically drew a line ending at Texas, and going from Texas pretty well straight north, knowing I wanted to work in Texas, possibly Oklahoma, someplace in the south. I liked Richmond, Virginia, where I was. I'd already worked in Miami, so I wanted to work someplace warm. I got a call from a friend in Albuquerque saying if there was an opening there, and I said I didn't want to pursue it because it was not within my confines. About a week later, he called me back and said, get out your map and look, and draw a line from El Paso, which is Texas, straight north, and you'll see there's Albuquerque, which means we actually are within your line, even though you didn't include New Mexico. So please consider New Mexico. Liked it. Went to work in Albuquerque. Worked there from 1980 through 1989, and an opening occurred in Las Cruces as a general manager. So I came down as GM of an FM radio station, which we ultimately bought.
Two of those people are former employees who said,
best learning experience I ever had. You learn so much from Alan. Anybody can learn something from Alan, and he will always admit he can always learn something from you, and that's one of the best qualities about him. He's a real straight-on people person. He knows how to talk to people. He knows how to solve problems. We're showbiz. This is fun. Alan made it clear, you're in show business.
It was always about helping your clients. It was always about honesty, hard work. He would give me this advice that was really not my personality at all, especially when I began at the company. And I would literally have to write down some of the things he would ask me to say, take out a few of the words that started maybe with like an F. And then I would just do what he told me to do and say what he told me to say, and it always worked out every time.
Alan and his wife Sandy, who he credits for much of his success, have been together for 42 years. They raised 2 children and are the proud grandparents of 3, adding that New Mexico has been good to them. He retired in November 2013 and says,
I have 7 days worth of Saturdays and Sundays now.
While a broadcaster, Alan held several NMBA board positions and was the NMBA Broadcaster of the Year. He was also the Las Cruces Addy Silver Medal recipient given for his work in the industry. Regarding his induction into the NMBA Hall of Fame, a former employee shared the following.
The pictures of the people you see in those Hall of Fames are people that laid the groundwork for what we're here today. And we don't get to pay respects to them very much. Unfortunately, it's usually just at a dinner or a lunch like this. But I think as time goes on, he's going to be one of those pictures, and we're going to look back and say, imagine where we were if he wasn't there.
Please join us in congratulating Alan Lumeyer, one of the newest members of the New Mexico Broadcasters Hall of Fame.